And it also mentioned that this idea of how other people in our life are so important for our evolution because people are mirrors. We see ourselves and we evolve ourselves through our interaction and relationship with other people. The eye cannot see itself without a mirror, right? So, yeah, I've just been thinking about how a lot of my friendships and relationships, they're just constantly evolving me because of the mirrors that other people are. So, yeah.
Yeah, my goodness. I want to go back to this piece that where we started about
Nonverbal.
yeah, nonverbal
Right.
communication.
Yeah.
There's something here about so much of that mirroring that happens that you're talking about is nonverbal.
Right. There's the mirror neurons in our brain.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There's an actual term for it.
Yeah.
Where we match body language with people that we have rapport with, and then that just creates this mutual rapport. It's and once again, that's being attuned to the body language and the communications that's being transferred there. Yeah.
And so I think part of your question was, like what are entryways into the nonverbal?
Yeah, how do you touch the nonverbal realm, especially the nonverbal programming, right?
Right.
I should say the pre-verbal programming, before we had words to understand our reality, before we could say that is a tree.
Right.
We observed it for what it actually was. Before we even had the term for what mom is, and all the attachments to what mom is, both in the collective and individually. There was an understanding of what mom is before there was even the word for it. It's like, the other way you can look at it is words are, in effect, gestalts, right? Where a gestalt is like this
memories of gestalts.
This thing that represents the parts, in a sense. The gestalt as a whole, that's a deep topic, but it's like the symbol and the notion and the word of a tree is a gestalt for branches, greenness, things that are rooted in the ground, pretty big, shakes in the wind, has a certain kind of smell to it, sometimes gives fruits and nuts and sometimes doesn't, right? All these different things, we don't think about that when we think about tree. Right. We're not parsing that out, and so that is my understanding kind of what a gestalt is. So you could almost look at pre-verbal as pre-gestalt, even pre-formation of gestalts.
That's interesting.
Kind of an interesting thought, right?
Yeah.
Because what are words but symbols, right?
Yeah.
And so and what are symbols but gestalts? And so, anyways, it's very So how do we touch that? It's an interesting thought. I mean, one of the things that you've mentioned is this play therapy or this playback theater or those kind of things. Art therapy, another probably way to start touching that.
Sure. My sense is that one of the main ways is through intimate relationship. Through, and I mean just being close with somebody else, even intellectually, and to whatever degree, if you're able to be close with somebody else, specifically, who is aware of, and so this is part of where I was going where I was going with when I was talking about feelings and body sensations. To be able to access in my experience, to be able to access the pre-verbal or the non-verbal, there's the need to be able to be in touch in the moment with sensations and with feelings.
You know what that reminds me of, as you say that, is a lot of people, when they experience, say, massage, with a particularly intuitive massage person, sometimes when a certain part is touched, they will have an emotional release.
Mm-hmm.
or they'll have a vision come up,
Sure.
a memory that they have long since forgotten.
Sure. Yeah.
That's kind of an interesting. I mean, that's talk about how sensations are attached
Yeah.
to certain truths. You know.
Yeah. In that way, I think that the body itself is a portal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a portal to the nonverbal,
Mm-hmm.
to the preverbal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a place where experience, where the like in the like architectural design of very specific shapes, body shapes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that there is psychological like association in the forms. They're like clusters, neighborhoods of experience, of emotional experience,
Mm-hmm.
almost like gestalts of experience, of but these kind of neighborhoods where the very specific types of movements of like openness or
Right.
closing or whatever it
Totally.
is, and so my well, I guess it's kind of silly, but by definition, if it's pre-verbal or non-verbal, that it might be hard, and it's not impossible, I don't think, but it might be hard to be able to access the non-verbal um, inside words. You can do that,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
right?
Right.
You can with different kinds of associations.
Right.
But the body is something, as you said, that is talking all the time. And so if we can have an intimate relationship where we can be close and alive, and we can help each other essentially notice when one of us is tense, or when one of us seems to be feeling something.
Yeah.
Yeah? Like these different, or when one seems to be like really relaxed. And it's that kind of information that we give to each other, right, in the nonverbal, and if we're able to sense them and put them into words, we help each other bring nonverbal out into the verbal, into the conscious.
A couple things I'm thinking about. I mean, one I'm thinking about is there was a test of, or a study where they told some students to cross their arms during a lecture, and other students to keep their arms uncrossed, and they found that students who had their arms crossed retained less information. So the mind follows the body, and the body follows the mind.
Sure.
But the other thing I'm thinking about too is, there's a theory of multiple intelligences, right? So there's, of course, what we often think of intelligence being the intellectual, more academic thing. But then there's obviously emotional intelligence. There's
kinesthetic.
There's a kinesthetic. There's even like just having an intelligence about sound, even.
Sure. Spatial.
Spatial, right? So then I'm thinking of certain kind of people who are very, they're very body-oriented people, right? Maybe they go to the gym a lot, or maybe they're just very much in the physical realm of their body, and they have really beautiful bodies, because they're working on it, and they're doing the exercises, and they're super active. But are these people more in touch with the nonverbal world than other people who maybe are less into that? And maybe they are.
That's interesting.
And if they don't seem to have necessarily a greater advantage over others, then how can we use and interact with our bodies in a way that is more intentional at touching the non or pre-verbal parts of consciousness? And you know what it might be? It might just be the difference is intention, right? Because if you're living in the physical world and you are really embodied and you're like working on your body, but you don't have the intention to access certain parts, well then it's not going to happen. It's like certain people. I mean, in my case, I will not remember my dreams usually unless I tell myself that I'm going to remember my dream the previous night. That intention changes the situation. So
absolutely,
I think it's all about intention, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, there's people. Well, case in point, I think I used to aspire to be a very successful tennis player.
Right. Right.
And eventually I realized that that wasn't what I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ended up becoming very interested in healing.
Mm-hmm.
As I became interested in healing, I realized what a people person I am.
Mm-hmm.
And how interested I am in people and the nuances and in deep relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I love deep relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And as I grew out of tennis, I would go back and I would still feel the love, and I would watch the interviews
Mm-hmm.
of the tennis players is when they won this or lost this or talking about their lives, being interviewed. And the great majority of tennis players do not have a great capacity to relate, like emotionally.
Yeah.
The capacity to communicate and to feel and to be present.
Yeah.
There's this very common one-track mind that is thinking about improving the stroke or the tactic or the whatever.
Right.
And I'm not saying that there's not a lot of intelligence there.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of, but there are some tennis players that have a lot of emotional intelligence in this case, right? Of this kind of example.
Yeah.
And some that do not. There's some people that grow psychologically tremendous amounts, and some people who basically stay the same person, and they, their depth in terms of their psychological.
Well, that reminds me of another thing.
Yeah.
Another little tidbit of wisdom I got from another person. His name was Titus, and he talked about how if you're, say, dieting and wanting to lose weight, or say you're exercising, you want to lose weight. If you're doing it because you're upset with your body and you're not happy with your body and you're like, stupid body, I just want to lose weight, then the exercise is poisonous. Whereas if you have a good relationship with your body, and you're like, I honor my body, I want my body to be in the best shape because I love it. Then the exercise is actually medicine. Same thing with the diet, same thing with any kind of thing when we're trying to make an improvement. It's a lot of times like, I know a lot of health nuts where they have such a negative relationship with food, and they eat really healthy, and but they are, first of all, they're not happy. And they're not doing as well as other people who have a more positive relationship with food, though they may not be eating as well, right? Now, granted, right.
And there you're changing the definition of what it means to eat well.
Right. But like, what if the relationship with your food is almost, well, maybe I won't say more important, but maybe it's as important as like what you're actually eating. That reminds me of another thing.